Salkhad, perched atop an extinct volcano and ringed by snow, had once served as a Roman frontier post. When British explorer Gertrude Bell arrived in the winter of 1905, it functioned again as an outpost, not of Rome, but of the Ottoman Empire, which kept only the thinnest veil of authority over a people accustomed to independence. The Ottoman administration maintained a nominal presence in Salkhad, including a sub-governor and a finance officer. To these officials, Bell's unexpected arrival from the desert, without prior approval, was a diplomatic disturbance. Despite the precariousness of their post, Bell found the Turkish officials courteous, even when burdened by the need to report her every movement to the governor in Damascus.
My experience of Turkish officials leads me to count them among the most polite and obliging of men. If you come to them with the proper certificates, there is nothing they will not do to help you. When they stop you, it is because they are obliged to obey orders from higher authorities. And even when you set aside, as from time to time you must, refusals that are always couched in language conciliatory to a fault, they conceal their just annoyance and bear you no ill will for the trouble you have caused them.
Yet for all their courtesy, their power was negligible. The Ottoman presence in Jebel Druze was largely symbolic, its small garrison vulnerable to tribal allegiance.
There are not more than 200 Turkish soldiers in all the mountain. The rest of the Ottoman forces are Druze zaptiers, well pleased to wear a government uniform and draw government pay on the rare occasions when it reaches them, though they can hardly be considered a trustworthy guard if serious differences arise between their own people and the Sultan.
The Ottoman sub-governor, stationed in Salkhad, bore the burden of this tenuous authority. His frustration surfaced during a rare private moment with Bell.
Yusuf Effendi said pathetically, in his stilted Turkish Arabic, "I never know what they are doing. They look on me as an enemy. And if they wish to disobey orders from Damascus, they cut the telegraph wire and go their own way. What power have I to prevent them?"
Druze autonomy had been tested during the 1896 uprising, when Ottoman efforts to enforce conscription and taxation were met with armed resistance. Many local sheikhs were exiled as a tactic to neutralize local leadership, yet inadvertently broadened their perspectives, bringing a grudging respect for Ottoman reach.
In a blind fashion, the fashion in which the Turk conducts most of his affairs, the wholesale carrying off of the Druze sheikhs and their enforced sojourn for 2 or 3 years in distant cities of the empire, has attained an end for which far-sighted statesmanship might have laboured in vain. Men who would otherwise never have travelled 50 miles from their own village have been taught knowledge of the world. They have returned to exercise a semi-independence almost as they did before, but their minds have received, however reluctantly, the impression of the wide extent of the Sultan's dominions, the infinite number of his resources, and the comparative unimportance of Druze revolts.
Still, pockets of modernization existed. The introduction of steam mills, for instance, anchored peace by tying local capital to order.
A man who owns a steam mill is pledged to maintain the existing order. He has built it at considerable expense. On the contrary, he hopes to make money from it. My impression is that peace rests on a much firmer basis than it did 5 years ago, and that the Ottoman government has not been slow to learn the lessons of the last war.
Despite these developments, ancient tribal codes remained alive. Bell arrived just as rumors of a raid circulated across Salkhad's winding streets and nightly fires.
They listened eagerly when we told of the raid on the Hassania and the part the Sukkah had played in it, and they drew from us all we knew or conjectured as to the present camping grounds of the latter tribe, how far the raiders had come, and in which direction retreated. The muleteers overheard men whispering at the street corners of warlike preparations.
Then came the signal. A fire lit atop the ancient castle wall, summoning all under the mountain to mobilize
I had just finished dinner and was debating whether it were too cold to write my diary when a sound of savage singing broke upon the night, and from the topmost walls of the castle, a great flame leapt up into the sky. It was a beacon kindled to tell the news of the coming raid to the many Druze villages scattered over the plain below, and the song was a call to arms.
Bell climbed through frozen mud and lava scree under bright moonlight to witness the ceremony. In the clearing stood a gathering of Druze warriors.
We climbed over the half-frozen mud and edged our way in the darkness round the castle walls and came out into the full moonlight upon the wildest scene that eyes could see. A crowd of Druzes, young men and boys, stood at the edge of the moat on a narrow shoulder of the hill. They were all armed with swords and knives, and they were shouting phrase by phrase a terrible song. Each line of it was repeated 20 times or more until it seemed to the listener that it had been bitten as an acid bites the brass onto the intimate recesses of the mind. Upon them, O Lord our God, that the foe may fall in swathes before our swords, that our spears may drink at their hearts. Let the babe leave his mother's breast. Let the young man arise and be gone. Upon them, O Lord our God, that our swords may drink at their hearts. Suddenly the chant stopped, and the singers drew apart and formed themselves into a circle, every man holding his neighbours by the hand. Into the circle stepped 3 young Druzes with bare swords and strode round the ring of eager boys that enclosed them. Before each in turn they stopped and shook their swords and cried, "Are you a good man? Are you a true man?" And each one answered with a shout.
Bell later ascended the volcanic hill to the well of al-Khidr, a sanctuary emblematic of the region's syncretic sacred geography. She speculated that such shrines, dedicated to Khidr or St. George, likely overlay ancient Semitic religious sites.
Now there is never a prominent hill in the Jebel Druze, but it bears a sanctuary on its summit, and the building is always one of those early monuments of the land that date back to the times before Druze or Turk came into it. Were they erected to Nabatean gods of rock and hill, to Drusara and Alat, and the pantheon of the Semitic inscriptions, whom the desert worshipped with sacrifice at the Kaaba, and on many a solitary mound? If this be so, the old divinities still bear sway under changed names, still smell the blood of goats and sheep sprinkled on the black doorposts of their dwellings, still hear the prayers of pilgrims carrying green boughs and swathes of flowers.
In Druze belief, al-Khidr, Elijah, John the Baptist, and St. George are regarded as successive reincarnations of a single immortal spiritual figure, thus revealing their doctrine of soul transmigration and continuity of prophetic wisdom. Continuing on toward Saleh, Bell encountered Muhammad el-Nassar, a sheikh who presided over one of the most respected households in the mountain. Exiled after the 1896 revolt, his return symbolized both Ottoman caution and local resilience. His hospitality filled the evening with learned debate, and an unexpected topic dominated conversation.
The topic that interested them most at Saleh was the Japanese War. Indeed, it was in that direction that conversation invariably turned in the mountain. The reason being that the Druzes believed the Japanese to belong to their own race. The line of argument which has led them to this astonishing conclusion is simple. The secret doctrines of their faith hold out hopes that someday an army of Druzes will burst out of the furthest limits of Asia and conquer the world. The Japanese had shown indomitable courage. The Druzes also are brave. The Japanese had been victorious. The Druzes of prophecy will be unconquerable. Therefore, the two are one and the same.
The Russo-Japanese War of 1904 was fought between the Russian Empire and Japan over competing imperial interests in Manchuria and Korea. The war began with a surprise Japanese naval attack on the Russian fleet at Port Arthur, a strategic base in northeast China. Over the following year, Japan scored a series of decisive victories by land and sea, eventually compelling Russia to negotiate peace. The conflict ended with the Treaty of Portsmouth, brokered by the United States, which recognized Japan's dominance in Korea and its growing role in East Asia. As dawn broke over the snow-covered rooftops of Salih, Bell packed her equipment and took leave of her hosts. Ahead lay the Safa, a desolate stretch of volcanic rock that marked the eastern frontier of Druze territory.